Today, we are talking about Evil Dead Burn.
Evil Dead is a special franchise for people. Like, people do not act normal around Evil Dead. You know what I mean?
Listen, you have chosen this path. You have decided to put the record on the record player. Open the book and read from the book, and whatever comes from it, you picked it. Gentlemen, do you remember what that initial reaction was?
That was fun. That was my initial reaction.
I felt exhausted. I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, it's about a young couple and they're married and they're having some issues in their relationship. They should have called this movie The Drama.
It seemed like the big picture of this movie is this family is dysfunctional. And not only did we see that they had dysfunction, but if you bring the boogeyman involved and you possess everybody, it makes that dysfunction even worse. Hello and welcome to KRA-KOOM. I am your host, Octavius A. Newman, and today we are talking about Evil Dead Burn, the newest movie in the whole Evil Dead franchise. And today, with me on the show to review this movie is Adam Teterus. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing well. I'm doing better than every single character in Evil Dead Burn. Thanks for having me.
And also with me today is Kenny Sparks. How you doing, Ken?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm just happy to be here and talk to you guys about this awesome movie.
Yes. So we are going to be spoiling Evil Dead Burn. And what that means for you, audience, listener, or watcher, is that we are spoiling everything. You are listening to a spoiler show. We are reacting. We are reviewing everything. For first Evil Dead, the second Evil Dead 3. What was that one called, Adam?
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness, the 2013 or 2019, all of them, the TV shows, cartoons, there was comic books, there was video games, all of that kind of stuff. It's all up for grabs. If you have not seen this movie and you continue to watch/listen, you have chosen this path. You have decided to put the record on the record player. Open the book and read from the book, and whatever comes from it, you picked it. Okay, so the spoiler wall is here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's your fault. So now, for all of the people who are still with us and have seen this movie or have just chosen their destiny, let's get into Evil Dead Burn. Let's talk about real quick, just a quick little something that I found on the interwebs that describe what this movie was. Here's the little log line. After the loss of her husband, a woman seeks solace with her in-laws as one by one they transform into deadites. She comes to discover that the vows she took in life survive even in death.
Wow.
Gentlemen,
that's good copywriting. That's good copywriting. Yeah.
I like that.
That's really good. That is exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened 100%. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the anytime you read a log line for something like this, there needs to be mention of what Evil Dead is, the franchise, how long it's been running. It's like I know for you, Octavius, and for lots of people who are listening to this and see the movie, the people that we were in the theater with last night, Evil Dead is a special franchise for people. Like, people do not act normal around Evil Dead. You know what I mean? Like, they get really, really animated around Evil Dead. So it's got it as a horror movie franchise, it has a kind of special something. It's got a little special sauce. And no copywriter can fully capture that thing. You just got to know. You got to experience it.
Right. Speaking of animated, let me tell you something, internet watchers and listeners. We, the three of us, and Sligh, our editor, went to go see this movie yesterday. We were fortunate enough to see an advanced screening of this. And at the movie, we walked in and there was a table. All right, a black table with red candles and all the kinds of other spooky elements. There were 2 performers.
Hold on. Okay? Spooky elements included glow sticks. I mean, that's as spooky as you want to make it, right? You know, like there were spooky elements and
I walked up to that
party
table. Party favors and all other kinds of elements. So I walked up to the table, and the first thing I said, wait a minute. what we got going on here? Because I see candles, I see black cloth, I see what's going on. I'm here to see a movie. I'm not here for a seance. Okay, no, is the Necronomicon here? Are you? What am I getting involved with? But the funny thing I wanted to point out to y'all, just before we get into the movie, we had 2 performers that were like dressed up as Deadites. And one of these dudes was earning his money. When I say he did not break character, the entire evening, he was handing out buttons. Would you like a button? Would you like a button? And I was just like, I would in fact like a button. The dude was giving it everything. He was also handing out glow sticks and like all of that. I'm just like, hell yeah. Take me there. Bring me into the whole thing. That was hilarious to me.
That guy was so committed physically, like the way he was moving his body around, and he had a funny stance. And you're 100% right. He was selling it. I caught him break one time, and it really made me laugh because he's like contorting toward people and trying to freak them out. And at one point, he stops and he goes, "Hey, Glenn, do we have these in large?" And so it's like, he's still working, right? He's checking inventory a little bit,
right. Right.
Plus, me and Ken were sitting next to them a little bit too, and honestly,
in the theater?
you haven't lived until you sat in a movie theater next to the paid performers and be like, wow. "Oh man, they're just chilling."
So what happened was actually, me and Adam both had to leave for 0.52 seconds to come, to take care of business and come back. I had to get some food because I hadn't eaten all day. And I come back, Adam abandons me. He goes to another section. And when I get to my row, I see the Deadite in my row, and I didn't see him before. I was like, whoa. So I saw blood on the side of his face. I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like for a split second, I was like, oh, he's committed. That's right. So
I turned into a Deadite. I told Ken, I was like, hey, I got to go. And then, the curse was transmitted and, Kenny looked over and it was a Deadite version of Adam, like,
yeah.
It's true, Kenny. I did abandon you, and I want to apologize for that because we're going to talk about one of the characters in this movie and that character's behavior toward a loved one during a time of distress. And that, I emulated his behavior. I basically left you high and dry. My bad. You really find out what kind of person you are when you're watching Evil Dead burn. What would you do in one of these situations? Would you protect your friends? Would you put your back against their back and team up and figure it out? Or would you do what I did and hightail it a little bit higher into the theater for a better viewing position?
Well, the good news is we all made it out alive. We all survived this engagement. And we want to talk about it. So let's talk a little bit about those initial reactions. We've seen the movie. We were there. I got to say, it was a lively audience. People were talking back to the screen. They were laughing. They were like chuckling and commenting. And it was a very reactive audience. People were scared when they were supposed to be scared. They yelped and gasped when they were supposed to. And afterwards, it was like a, not rowdy, but people really were engaged in conversation afterwards. So if you had this experience, once you leave the movie theater, usually that first initial conversation with the crew or the people you came with is that initial reaction. You just came out of this thing, you just saw it. Gentlemen, do you remember what that initial reaction was? Ken, what was yours?
That was fun. That was my initial reaction. That was the sentence I walked away from. That was fun. I had a great time. I really want to see this again because of certain reasons and circumstances I guess we can get into later. But man, this was really good. And I'm a person who came into Evil Dead late. So I kind of started with Rise. And I love that movie. So I was really looking forward to this and it delivered for me.
Adam, what you got?
When we got out of the theater, we'll have to talk about the circumstances getting into the movie and how, we were walking in on time, mind you, dear listener. We were on time, and they started that joint early, and we were walking in. I felt like the entire movie I was catching up to the movie, which isn't that hard because it's not Evil Dead is not plot heavy. You know what I mean? So it's not like we needed to do a lot.
A little something in there.
Point is. I could take in a lot of context clues. I'm like, oh, shit's fucked up. Okay, all right, got it. I'm good. I'm on the same page as everybody else. Got it. And so I felt like it wasn't too difficult for me to catch up to it, but I did always have this unshakable feeling of being a little off kilter. Maybe that works in a movie like this, you know? But I did always feel a little bit like I was catching up to the movie. And when I got out of the theater, I felt exhausted.
Ooh,
I felt like
okay.
my mind, from a sensory experience, I felt exhausted by the movie. And the movie is not terribly long, but the content of the film is I mean, like, yeah, your nervous system is just getting pummeled by the movie. And so I did feel exhausted. That was kind of my initial feeling. And I think I've been making my way through thinking about, oh, how did I like it? What did I like about it? Where does it fit in the ranking of Evil Deads? I want to talk about that a little bit, but I got to say, this is not my favorite Evil Dead.
Really? Okay. Well, for me, it's not my favorite Evil Dead either, but I really did like the movie. I had a good time because I think it provoked the feelings that it was supposed to. You know, it really got me to gasp and react and squirm and twist my face up and lean back in my seat or push forward in my seat. And for me, that's always a positive experience. When a movie actually does something, one of the worst things a movie can do is make you bored or make you uninterested or make you wish that you weren't there. And this movie, for me, I think not only was good as far as the genre and the scares, there was also some good filmmaking moments in it as well. Some of the cinematography, some of the tricks that they did, but they also promoted a really good conversation that I wanted to have with my friends about, how does this show how people react when it comes to dealing with other people's families, when it comes to dealing with your own family, and when it comes to actually processing who you are when the shit hits the fan, essentially. You know what I mean? So one of the things that I want to think about and I want to talk to you all about is what really took place in this movie to kind of bring us up to maybe having a deeper conversation later on. It seemed like the big picture of this movie is this family is dysfunctional. And not only did we see that they had dysfunction, but if you bring the boogeyman involved and you possess everybody, it makes that dysfunction even worse. You got this kid, or this grown man actually, who is rummaging around in his grandfather's stuff and finds the whole what did he found the dagger? What was the dagger called, Adam? It was the what?
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember. It's a reference to the first movie, but it's like the dagger of Kandar or something like that. You know what I mean? But the entire time I was trying to think of it, I was like, the dagger of Kundalar, the dagger of Quandrat. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's an important mystical dagger from the first movie.
The thing. Yeah. He finds the thing. And he listens to the record from his grandfather. And the grandfather says, when you uncover the weapon, they will then rise to defend themselves. And that's essentially what the big picture is. Once you find this thing, the Deadites activate and they respond saying, hey, we need to get after this thing because this thing can actually harm us. That's our opening. And from there, we have this really gruesome, horrific, disgusting, and awesome, might I say, moment on this dock where two guys are fishing.
Yeah.
And we get the Evil Dead gruesomeness from the jump. Of course, I was grossed out. I think they were trying to do that. And yes, there were moments of jump scares and there's moments of, gruesome, creepy things happening. But what I found myself thinking about while the movie was taking place was, what are you trying to say? As a storyteller, as a filmmaker, what are you trying to communicate to me through this genre, through this medium? And the thing I was thinking about was, one, I want to try to look up this guy's name. It's the guy who played Joseph. We've got that's the son. We've got the parents, right? And we've got the grandfather who was a part of this group of people who were trying to fight against, the Evil Dead, so to speak. And
Right.
We've got the parents, and it seems like we've got two sons. The one son, was his name Will? Was that right?
Yes. Yeah.
He's the super duper abusive bad guy. And we've also got Alice, right? He's married to Alice. And apparently they run a bar or a club or something to that effect, right? And then we've also got Joseph, who's his brother, seems like maybe younger brother, and his girlfriend, it seems. I'm not so sure. I don't remember what her name is, and I'm looking on IMDb, but looks like Lucienne.
I think it's Thea or Taya, one of the two.
What was that?
I say it looks like it's Thea or Taya or one of the two.
Okay, yeah. He's in a with her. So as the story's going on, we see that ultimately what happens is Will is abusive to his wife, and Joseph is just kind of watching it happen from Jump Street, from the beginning. When we're introduced to these characters, this is what's taking place. Like this guy being rough with his words, with his presence, the way he's showing up. And both of those people see it. They're catching the energy. They're picking up from him like what he's giving off. And they seem they're trying to navigate around it. You know what I mean?
They're trying to play peacemaker.
Right. Even to the point where they're going to have an actual conflict outside of the club or restaurant or whatever the place may be. And the one moment that Joseph moves towards Will to say, yo, bro, chill, he peels off. He leaves. So what I'm thinking about is like, okay, what's the dynamic of these people? And what they're showing you off top is like, this dude Will is rough and abusive, and Alice kind of is putting up with it. Why? What kind of people are these, and why are they like that? Joseph is the brother, and he's kind of a coward. So what the movie to me does is it creates this super duper heightened scenario of exaggerated and making a caricature out of that dynamic. You know what I'm saying? But they then layer on top of it this IP of the Evil Dead. And that to me, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. It's not just people getting killed. It's going, how do these kinds of people interact with this kind of environment? And to me, I was like, all right, I feel you. I'm going along for the ride with that. And that worked for me. Did any of that, did you pick up any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. It was funny. I was thinking about, this is probably the worst mental state to have when you're watching a movie. You're like, well, what witty thing am I going to say on the podcast when we sit down and we talk about? And I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, it's about a young couple and they're married and they're having some issues in their relationship. They should have called this movie The Drama.
As a direct comparison to the
but because it's just about like in a lot of ways about more than Evil Dead and possession and fighting deadites and occult stuff. It's about people who turn away and ignore and therefore enable toxic behavior and abuse, systems of abuse. I do think that those things are very much front and center in the movie, and the movie wants you to know that. In fact, it has our protagonist, our final girl, yelling like, you knew about this, pointing and accusing the family. You knew he was like this. All of you, fuck all y'all. She's surviving not just the deadites, but surviving the circumstances that she has been swimming in, if you will.
The deadites are really just like, the way I take it, they're a manifestation. They're utilizing this genre and this story to manifest a physical manifestation of what a family that is abusive and a family that is toxic is like. The way they treat each other, the way they treat outsiders, the way you would have to kind of like deny yourself and kind of put up with it to continue to stay there, to showcase what's the relationship of the little brother, what's the relationship of the father to the mother, the grandmother. You know what I mean? Like think about how all these dynamics show up, but now let's embellish it with this genre and this art direction, this creative direction, and this is the circumstance. That's the way I was taking it. And I was like, oh, okay, I see you. I see what you're doing. I like that.
Well, let me say two things I think this movie succeeds in doing that I was particularly interested in. Thing one is instead of having like a central witch or deadite or the one figure that is hunting, stalking, killing throughout the movie, which is what we're used to in Evil Dead, they had the whole family unit. Yeah. And I think that they effectively showed what happens when it transfers to the next person, and how the Deadites' mission is not just to come and hunt you down and kill you, not just to get you, but to recruit. And I enjoyed that as an angle, like a fresh element in this version of Evil Dead. It reminded me a lot, for those who play video games and like Resident Evil, it reminded me a lot of Resident Evil 7, which in turn is a tribute in some ways to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And so it's like, it's not all the way original, but it's original in this framing. And I liked that element. I thought that the Deadite family unit, that, the way that they would trade dentures and saliva and do that nasty kisses and all that little stuff, that was kind of an exciting element, because they're building the army of darkness. And that was kind of cool. And then the second thing that this movie does that I enjoyed, that I found kind of fresh, in every single Evil Dead, how do we get the Deadites in the first place? We find the Necronomicon, and we read the lines out loud. Which, first of all,
damn reason. Why are you
come on, for some damn reason. And this movie has the good sense of having the character start doing it. We're all yelling at the screen. Come on, Alice. Haven't you ever seen Evil Dead? Right. And then when she gets to the fourth and final line, she says, fuck this, and that's fun. But what the movie does instead is it shows, turns out there's another way in, because when the dagger is revealed, when the location of the dagger is revealed, it acts as a beacon, and the Deadites are summoned because they want to take it, destroy it, compromise it so it can't be used against them. And so it's cool because it takes your expectations for how we summon this thing. In horror movies, look, we can all yell at the screen and say, don't go down there. But we all know that the character does have to go down there in order for the movie to happen. And instead, it's like this movie opened up the bottle from the other end. And they had you thinking it was coming from one place, but they get it open from another place. And I respect that, because having a storied franchise means having to balance doing all of the things that you come to expect and you're excited to see, and getting bored of seeing the same thing over and over again. Right.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that they kind of open up the can of worms from the other side with the dagger. Not that the dagger itself is important, but it ends up being a different on-ramp for all hell breaks loose. Those were the two things that were really working with me. Plus some of the camera tricks I liked, although I was getting a little tired of drone camera. Do you ever notice in a movie?
You Evil Dead. You got.
You ever notice in a movie when like drone these days, drone shots, you just can't help but kind of see the drone in your mind. Like, I know they're filming that with the drone. That takes me out. That takes me out.
Okay.
It depends.
Is that just me?
Yeah.
No, I mean, it depends on the circumstance. It depends on the situation. Like, sometimes if it's really like distracting, then that's one thing. But I think if a movie's doing a good job of immersing me in what's going on, I can suspend reality. You know what I mean? To just accept, okay, that's what's taking place. And I'm not sitting here really critiquing the technique, because the impact is happening.
Yeah, I think there was that movie with, it was a Michael Bay movie with Yahya
I was just thinking
II.
about that.
And that one, I was like, hey, man,
that thing
you can put the drone away.
That's all they were doing,
twisting and flowing. I was like, hey, man, you can put it away. We can stop. We can stop right now.
Yeah, it's just you're doing too much. But I mean, like, who among any of the three of us could tell Michael Bay he's doing? We all know he's doing too much. He knows he's doing too much.
That's the brand. The brand is doing too much.
Yeah, that's what you're signing up for. You're like, hey, Michael Bay, calm it down. And it's like, you talking to me?
Huh?
Right.
He must be confused. Yeah, I'd be confused with somebody who care about that. I don't.
Yeah,
Did
but
you have
as far
go ahead.
As far as like what you were talking about in terms of the themes and the people involved, I do think that with every single possession, with every single transfer of possession, you saw the mask of the family kind of slip off a little bit. Every time someone, even to the point where the mother of the family, who was super protective of her son who could do no wrong, once she gets the offer from the husband or the grandfather, forget what the relationship was there, she willingly accepts it. It's not like she got possessed. She accepts it and goes for it because this is the way for her to protect the image of her son, the image of her family, her own self image. Because I believe, and I may be reading into this, but I believe that the reason a lot of mothers protect their abusive sons is because they don't want to view themselves as a bad mother. Because if they acknowledge that their son is terrible, that means they acknowledge that they did a terrible job at raising their son. Or they
Speak on it,
see
Kenny.
that in
Speak on
themselves, right? So
Speak
I
on it.
think a lot of that had to do with why so many different people in this family, actually pretty much everybody except for Joseph and his family, and to an extent Joseph too, because the protection was there, it just wasn't as hardcore as the mom. I do think that we saw that mask slip off, and that's why eventually the entire family gets in on it. And it seems like they accepted it at some point. The grandmother, before she was even possessed, was convinced that old girl was stealing things, and she was ready to fight pretty much on the side of the demons. I don't even think that the grandmother really gave in, because one thing she's under the covers, next thing you know, she's rising up like a ghost, like Casper. So it was really interesting to see that family dynamic happen. And I do think that you're correct in that is the central theme of this movie, is that mask slipping off. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I agree. And the one thing that really, like, I could not wait to talk to you all about was Joseph and the scene in the car.
The car.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, we have a whole scene. If you've seen the movie, you know, and if you haven't, I'll describe it very quickly. The father has become possessed. He is now a deadite. And the father has this scene at the kitchen table with the family where he's tripping. Whew. He's got the corkscrew. He's got all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? And we know as the watchers that this is taking place. So he wilds out. He kills the family dog, which is like, what the hell? That's insane. Mm-hmm. And now his son Joseph and Joseph's girl and Joseph's girlfriend is driving, apparently taking him to the hospital or something to the effect like that. And now the dad comes back to, he's fully possessed, and he starts to then attack his son and attack Joseph and his girlfriend. And when he attacks her, he starts to get the best of his father. And you're thinking, as a watcher, this is Joseph's opportunity to become heroic. Mm-hmm. This is the opportunity, because we've been kind of like seeding, hey man, step up. Oh, he's got that gun because it kind of makes him feel tough. This is the moment where he's going to stand up against his father. And the movie does such a great job of creating the anticipation, because the father essentially is doing this thing where he's going boom and pop and punching her. And it holds on her reaction to being punched that really kind of captured me, which was like, that was hard. Wait, he's going to stop him, right? And then again, boom, and he does it. And they keep showing her react to it. And I'm going, oh, this guy's running away. And it creates this huge moment where we recognize Joseph is a coward.
Yeah.
Joseph is running. He's not going to save her. She's going to die. This is happening. And I, as the watcher, I'm going, no, that's not what's supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not supposed to just kill. And then he kills her so gruesomely. And to me, yes. Is it a big gross out moment? Yeah. But I think what the movie is doing is going, no, now you see who Joseph is. This is the kind of guy who's doesn't have the spine to stand up. Mm-hmm. And then that moment pays off later when the girlfriend becomes a deadite and she is trying to kill him, you know? And that's the one time he stands up and stabs her in the neck. And the movie puts the words in her mouth and goes, so you wouldn't kill your father, but killing me is easy. I was like, whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. How did that impact y'all? Did you all feel any of that stuff when Joseph was kind of being cowardly? Did that come across to you?
Yeah, the scene in the car, exactly as you described. There comes a moment right before the father lands that final blow where you kind of accept the fact that she's going to die. Like, this is over. Like, there's nothing that's going to save her, because he's not going to save her. Obviously, he had the gun in his hand. He had every opportunity to shoot him rather. And once he kills her, once the father kills the girlfriend, you see him standing outside of the car, and I'm in the theater. I hear somebody behind me say, "How'd you get outside the car? What are you doing outside the car?" Like I'm hearing people in the theater saying that. It's like, yo, this dude outside the car. Like I'm hearing different like reactions to this, and I'm thinking the same things. Like, yo, you were right there, because the camera does a great job, or the director does a great job of not showing us him getting outside of the car. So you think that he's just in the car, and at any moment he could like be the hero. But when he actually does land that blow, and the next thing you see is him standing outside the car looking horrified, you're like, what are you doing? Why are you there? And then he runs off. Right. So so they did a really good job of presenting the cowardice of Joseph. And from that point on, I was done with Joseph as a character. Like I was like, you know what, you're not good with me. There's nothing you can do at the end of this movie to rise up, because you got your girlfriend killed. And everything that happened to him after that, I just like any moment, and this was why it's such a great job. Every moment after that, for him to be the hero, I had no confidence in that happening. And they did a really good job. They did a really good job at not giving him that moment later on and trying to redeem him. Right. So that I thought they did a really good job of having that character have a through line.
Yeah. There's a really good movie. There's a movie called Force Majeure. And Force Majeure is about a family on vacation. They're going skiing together up in the mountains. And they're all sitting together. And suddenly, abruptly, there is an avalanche starting. They're at a cabin, right? So it's them, a lot of other families are at this lodge, right? And there's this avalanche coming, and everybody is freaking out. Oh my God, the avalanche is coming straight for us. And it's like, yeah, what do you do? And how do you protect? And the avalanche comes, and it's a big scary moment. And it ends up being okay. Everybody's okay, near miss. But the father of the family ran away and left all the family behind. And the whole movie, Force Majeure, is kind of a double entendre. It's like, it's about this natural disaster, but actually the disaster is that now everybody knows who you are.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a lot of the movie 28 Weeks Later.
I was just thinking the same thing.
People don't really like think about as that movie as warmly as some of the others, but beginning of that movie, dad leaves, Whew.
You see him darting, you see him running off.
And I do think, it is something that is worth pointing out in this movie, because it's to say, like, the systems of abuse look different. Some of them enable because they're like, yeah, my son is tough. Some of them ignore because they're like, if I admit that this is happening, then what does that make me? I'm a bad mom. And some of them have no spine and choose to do nothing. And, as far as the movie having a message, I that was definitely effective. It was comedy, but also very telling, seeing Joseph on the other side of the glass, the car. I mean, like, okay. All right. This dude's out of here.
Right. Another character I want to talk about is Alice. That's our main character. Really, that's our final girl as well. Did she work for you at all? What did you think of her character?
Shout out to Scream Queens. Honestly, like shout out to actors in these roles where a very big portion of their work is having to successfully show us that they're in intense pain and in horrible danger. I thought the actress who plays Alice did a really, really good job. I mean, as far as the cast goes, certainly one of my favorite parts of the entire movie. It was just watching her sell it, and she sold it. She was good. And it's always fun in a horror movie, the final girl, like watching her get resourceful, dig deep, deal with rebar through the ankle, get the weed whacker going, like dealing with all of that stuff. And it was making me wonder, like, at what point in time, if you were the protagonist of a horror movie and you're in this kind of movie and you're surviving, you make it to the end, at what point in time does your humanity absolutely fundamentally shift? You're going through stuff that is like never going to recover from that. There's no therapy in the world that's going to bring you back from this.
Yeah. At a certain point, I think that if this was a real person, that would definitely change them forever. But when it comes to this character, when it comes to the movie, I think it's an interesting commentary as well on what Will, even like Deadite Will, which is kind of the big bad at the end of this movie, was saying to her was like, no, you like this. No, you wanted this. That's why you stayed. That's why you didn't leave. And I think it's an interesting thing to consider because as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you here? Why are you staying? Why are you having all these conversations? Like, how much of this stuff is going to have to happen to you for you to leave? But again, filmmaking, storytelling, utilizing this to elevate that sentiment by bringing in these other elements to say, hey, now try to feel and experience it through this way. Why are you staying? Why aren't you running? Why did you come to this? Why did you stay in the relationship in the first place? Okay, now that he's passed away, and it makes sense you want to stay here, but now look at how these people are treating you. Look at how they're responding to you. And now you're going to go to the house. They first showed us the house on the screen, I was like, oh, hell no. Like, you know what I mean? Like, visually, I'm like, hell no. I am not going in there. That looks crazy. But again, that feeling, I think, is supposed to provoke a similar feeling of like, Alice, why are you doing that? You know these people don't like you. You know they hate you. What's it going to take, Alice? What is it going to take for you to determine, hey, it's time for me to go? And it seems like the journey of this whole movie is Alice actually getting to the point where she's just like, all right, enough. I am going to fight back. I am going to stand up. I am going to respond. I'm going to do the things that I need to do to fight my way out of this and stand up for myself and get the hell out of here. All of these people, this entire family is coming after me and trying to hurt me, harm me, danger me, kill me. And they are all in on it. Everybody knows what's happening. But it took the Deadites to possess them, like you said, Ken, for the full mass to slip and go, we hate you. We want to kill you. We all know Will is treating you like this. And we still want to abuse you and bend you to our will, even in his death. But she's like, no. And I'll do what it takes. I'll go through the pain and difficulty to overcome this familial oppression and separate myself. And to me, I'm like, what a way to utilize horror and storytelling to tell a story like that. I think one of the like little taglines for this is like, be careful who your family is or something to that effect, which I thought was kind of like, I think that's kind of dope.
Would you say, in your opinion, did the movie answer those questions of like, why did you stay? Why did you put up with this? Do you think the movie makes good on and resolves that arc about Alice?
I don't think it necessarily said why. No, I don't think it says, hey, this is why. But I think it does address what she will do, what her response to the circumstance is.
Because I felt a little bit, to some degree, that the dynamic of her being in an abusive relationship, not just with her husband, ex-husband, but also, you know, as like an in-law and getting shit on by these people who don't care about her. Like, I think that it's obvious that those things were in there very intentionally, and the movie was working with them as ingredients. And to your point, heightening that with, you know, the Deadites and the Necronomicon and all of those special features. But I don't know if it necessarily landed that plane for me. Like, it was in there. It was a flavor that I was tasting, but I don't think it didn't come together in a way that made me feel satisfied. Like, okay, I see why they were doing that or what they were trying to do with that. It was just like, it was just a dynamic. Oh, yeah, I know about this. That sucks.
Yeah. Did that make the movie less entertaining or enjoyable for you in that?
I don't know if it made it less entertaining, but, you know, often when I'm thinking about my movie going experience, I'm thinking about a lot of different elements. You know, sometimes I am looking for a story. I want it to be smart, cerebral, and intellectual. But if it's not that, I'm looking for the thrill. Is this exciting? Does it have my heart rate going? And sometimes I'm looking for the visuals. Does this look beautiful? Do I want to like freeze frame and just like look at it? Or sometimes I'm looking at the camera work,
the
cinematography.
Some freeze frames in here? Did you want to freeze frame?
No, I'd rather not freeze frame any of this. As a matter of
things
fact,
you want to remember forever. You want to lock in.
No, there are some things I will remember forever against my will. But I think saying all that stuff is there are a lot of different parts of a movie. and I'm always kind of balancing between what am I feeling, what am I not feeling. And if I'm not feeling something, I'm starting to look for other parts, like what is keeping my attention, what is getting me into this. And I think this is ultimately how I come down on the movie, is this had fewer parts that were keeping my attention and more parts that were bugging me. And and so like between the visuals, looking a certain way, and like the script not really selling it for me, I was very thrilled by the ride. Like I said, it's like a roller coaster. I was very thrilled by the ride. Shout out to the people who make the effects. Shout out to the creative weirdos who say, okay, in this scene, what we're going to do is have his head get chopped in this very specific kind of angle. And then he's still talking at you, like, people put real work. It's gruesome, it's morbid, but people put real work into it, and that stuff was thrilling. But I think there were a lot of parts that were just kind of missing the mark for me. So I would try to grab onto something and be like, I don't know if that's fully formed. That's not really there for me. But that, the camera was moving. This is the most kinetic, hands down, most kinetic Evil Dead movie. The camera is schmoving, and that gives it a level of excitement. It just does. It's like, this movie is rowdy, and that's exciting, but it's also it's a bumpy ride.
We ready for grades on this one? Ready to hit up with that? Ken, you want to give it a letter grade?
Letter grade of a B, B to B plus. But I can settle on a B. I really did enjoy this movie. I'm still debating on whether or not I like this more than Evil Dead Rise, for sure. Evil Dead Rise I love absolutely. So if I'm debating with it on whether or not I love like this one or that one more, you can definitely engage how I feel about this one. Like I said, I really did enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to more, which is always a good sign of whether or not you enjoy the film. I would definitely like to see this on a rewatch so we can get the full experience. We didn't get a chance to see the post-credit scene. I probably could have looked up what the post-credit scene was. Maybe somebody else saw it, but I have no idea what it was. I think probably more than likely just a tease for the next movie. But yeah, so I want to have that full experience, seeing the very beginning, seeing the post-credit scene. But from what I did see, I did enjoy.
Yeah. Adam, what you got on the letter grade?
But first of all, apparently there are 2 post-credit scenes. I was reading a little bit about this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, wow.
So there's like a mid-credit and an end credit. You know how they do that?
And listener and watcher, what happened, just to explain what Adam's talking about, they turned the movie off on us.
They just turned it off.
They just literally cut the movie off.
Bro, they left us in the dark.
Yeah.
Yep.
We literally all walked out in the dark movie theater, and I asked one of the people afterwards, and they said they didn't want us to see that part because they didn't want to spoil it or reveal it for the regular people who are going to come watch the movie. So what Adam's about to explain is the ending that we did not see.
Yeah,
So
I haven't seen.
Can I make a guess?
I didn't read. I'm not spoiling because I don't know what it is. I don't know it. And for what it's worth, like, I wouldn't spoil it for you guys because, I don't know, maybe you want to go and experience it for yourself. But I just wanted to comment that really frustrated me. Octavius, me and you, we've been seeing a lot of movies like this, podcasting it together and going to a lot of press screenings. And I can't speak for you, but this was my first experience where they pulled something like that. And I was like, hey. I did not like that. And I think the fact that it was so unceremonious that they just cut it, no lights come on, no music. I mean, like, if it was intentional, even if somebody came out, even if they got one of those paid actors come out and he was like, I like, give me something.
They could have committed Bull, the Deadeye, come out and say something, but no. Yeah. But if I had to guess, if they hid it from us to this degree, it has to be Bruce Campbell, right? There's no other explanation. You can't. There's nothing else that could have happened that would make them turn the movie off, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I do not know. But as far as a letter grade goes, it's a C+ for me. I think this movie's got some good things going on. I think over time I will get the opportunity to reassess and reevaluate. I don't know how quickly I am going to turn around and see this movie again. What I would like to do, if I have my druthers, I would rewatch all the Evil Deads from jump because I love Evil Dead. I really, really love Evil Dead. 1, 2, Army of Darkness, all 3 Sam Raimi, the impact that it has on his career. This is a big part of my upbringing. And I had liked Fede Alvarez's 2013, and I liked Lee Cronin's most recent one. But I do think since Fede Alvarez kind of soft relaunched Evil Dead back in 2013, it's like Evil Dead is running a different race. And it's changing. The franchise is changing. I don't know if it's changing in a direction that I love. I did like the 2013. I did like Evil Dead Rise as well. I like the location of Rise more. I like the visuals. I like the apartment. There's like a lot of stuff that I like in the past two that I just wasn't super feeling in this one. But maybe over time, here's the thing. Some movies are just horror movies you put on at a sleepover. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be all that serious. And maybe in time I'll be like, oh man, I just want to see my friend react to the ear scene.
Right.
You know, maybe this is how I'm going to approach it. So, maybe I'll come back around to the movie, but there are a bunch of things that I've got questions about the movie. There's some like lingering, like, wait, was it? I'm pulling apart at the logic a little bit. I'm doing Disclosure Day all over again, where I'm like, was the mom it? Was she a part of it? Was she not a part of it?
I have those questions as well.
So I think the only reason that I do that, the only reason is when I'm not like having the absolute time of my life. And I start asking some questions that pull in the wallpaper down. But for me, I had an enjoyable enough time. I give it a C+.
I too real quick, give it a C+. I got a C+ as well. I think that this movie was good. It did what it's supposed to do. Story wise, gross out wise, intensity, feeling, emotion. It's a fun time at the movies. And if you give yourself over to the story and just go with it, it's good. And I think it's above average. Is it something that's like crossing over to me and like, yo, this is a movie that I gotta have on, 4K and I need to be able to have it on the regular, and just like, nah, not quite. But I like what they're doing with Evil Dead. I like the environment that they created, the circumstance, and the story they told. But I do think that the story still was a big opportunity for us to just like, let's go crazy and let's gross out as much as we can. And I give it points for that. I give it points for effectively doing the Evil Dead thing, effectively doing the horror and gross, disgusting, squirm your face up, because I enjoy that kind of roller coaster. You know what I mean? That's the kind of ride I like to go on, and I think they did that well.
Yeah.
I just want to appreciate the way both of us gave it a C+, because I'm dogging it. And I was like, it's a C+. And Octavius is like, I must agree, it's a C+. It's a good movie.
Right.
Ken, I just want to say the American grade system, what did it give us? We're arguing over what it means even.
It disrespected the letter E entirely. But yeah, the American grade system, it just totally skipped. Yeah.
E for evil.
Yeah, if you get an E on your math test, that's not a good sign.
You get an E on if you get an E on your math test, that's not a good sign.
Evil? Uh-oh.
Right. I think, Adam, you actually helped solidify it for me that I do like Rise more than Burn. I do want to give credit to Burn for one thing, too, sticking with the theme. Because Evil Dead Burn, there was a lot of burning in this movie, and if there wasn't, I probably would have had something to say about that, right? There was quite a bit of burning.
This one had a final boss. It was like a video game. Like Evil Dead Burn had a final
Burning
boss.
Man was the final boss.
I was not expecting that, to be honest with you.
I do think that I like, and this might sound a little weird, but I do think I like Evil Dead Rise more because it is more, in my mind, self-contained. Granted, one happens in an apartment and one happens in a house, but the fact that the Evil Dead Rise happens in that very small apartment and there's really nowhere to go, I thought that was more effective because I was more in fear for those kids in that apartment, and I also appreciate the fact that, just like with the dog, kids typically are off limits.
Yeah.
The kids were on limits in Rise.
They were on
and now they're completely limitless. But not only that, I thought the conclusion of Rise was better with the formation of the amalgamation of all the kids and the aunt and all that other good stuff and the monster at the end and the chainsaw. I thought that all that was much better done in terms of like a conclusion. But yeah, I still enjoy them both. But I do think Rise had and Rise's antagonist, the main antagonist, the aunt or the mom, felt much more personal to me to the rest of the characters. So I think I do like Rise more, but I still like Burn quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, one last thing I want to say before we go. There's one lesson that I think you all need to take away from this movie, Evil Dead Burn. We've been saying this for years. We've been saying this from multiple shows, and I'm going to say it to you now. Don't you invite nothing. Don't welcome nothing. Don't conjure nothing. Okay? Don't summon nothing. Don't do none of that. If you see anything like that happening, if anybody's like, we want to pull out a Ouija board, you slap the Ouija board out of their hand and you say, not in my house. In this house, we serve the Lord. You understand me? You don't play around with that stuff, because if you play, you're going to get what you asked for. All right? No inviting, no summoning, conjuring, welcoming, inviting, like concocting, alchemizing, any of those type of things, spirits, connect. I'm trying to tell you something. Keep playing. You're going to get what you asked for. That's my message from me to you. Stop playing around.
Listen, if your friends invite you over and there's a hand on the table and say, hey, look, grab that hand and ask them to talk to you. Don't do it. You see that hand on that table?
If you grab it, if you in it, like, hell no, I'm not grabbing nothing. No. I'm not. Look, who raised you? Who raised y'all? That's what I'm saying.
Can we just have a normal time? Can't I just come over and play Cards Against Humanity? You want me to like grab the hand of an undead spirit? It can't.
No.
And lose your humanity.
Do you have a different game? Yep. Do you have Settlers of Catan? Like, do you have something else? Can I pick?
We play checkers. Right. Good old Uno.
In my day.
Why we got to connect to the other side? I like this side. I don't want to be over there. If I was supposed to be over there, I'd be over there.
And stay vigilant. Stay vigilant, because I was in Goodwill the other day, and amongst the games was a Ouija board, and it was only $5. It was $5.
You
$5 for your soul.
That.
Yeah,
you said that. You
can't even buy your soul for $5.
$5 for your soul.
You took a photo of that and you sent it to the group text, and I would say even that's a flag on the play. All right, don't bring it into the group chat.
Keep that away from me. So listen,
and as a matter of fact, you know what? I've got some final parting words as well. Bundar, Makto,
no, that's it.
Cut it.
Okay. All right. So, and that will be it for this episode of
I got one more word I gotta say real quick.
No, you lost your word privilege.